Hi there, I'm Jeannie Fuller, and I want to start right off with showing you why it is so important to have a whole process for referrals. You see, there's some things that are going on. I mean, we might call them assumptions. If they grow on us, they're really illusions. And when we operate under those, the actions we do to generate referrals or anything else just don't work. And so our whole process is called inspiring them to give you referrals for profit. But it has to start with assumptions. Take a look at what happened to me.
I have a client named Bob, and I knew he could help my neighbor. And so I wanted to make an introduction. Bob was pleased about that, and I said I would set up a meeting for the two of them to get together. Bob was over here, and when I asked him, what should I tell my neighbor? He's going, oh, you've known me for so many years, Jeannie, you know exactly what to say. And I'm sweating it out. I've become very reluctant to go talk to my neighbor, and I just couldn't understand it because Bob is experienced. He's got a stellar record. He was perfect. And yet I don't want to go talk to my neighbor. I finally discovered I didn't know what to say. I didn't have any way of introducing it. So there was no clear story to tell. And that's the power of illusions, because I knew Bob's advantages, but I didn't have a story. And so it was very unclear, and I felt like I was going to have to give the commercial. On the other hand, I had another client named Paul, and he sparked my interest with a very compelling story about how he helped a client. It was really a fun story, and I was excited about it. But Paul, although he was experienced, probably didn't have the same track record of Bob, but he did have an interesting story. And you know what? I became a loudmouth. I started telling Paul's story just spontaneously and interested 3 people in talking to Paul without really thinking about it. It was amazing. For Bob, the question he should have been saying was, am I making some assumptions that I shouldn't have been making? That's a very important thing to consider. In fact, I'd like to say to you, are you making assumptions you shouldn't be making? Because that's what happened. You see, when you do that, you shoot yourself in the foot. That's right, Bob. If you think they know, you don't coach them. So what could you do differently? You coach them covertly, low-key, then they discover how they could be a help and find a referral for you. Yes, it may be a big aha, and you realize that you've been stifling your own growth. So let's look at that. The difference was Bob assumed erroneously, but Paul coached effectively, and I became a loudmouth. Amazing, isn't it? That's where the power is, in the coaching. You see, I knew all the benefits, but I had no opening and no transition when I was talking about Bob. On the other hand, I didn't need an opening or a transition because the story was so interesting, and I just started telling it spontaneously. So the whole thing boils down to coaching your clients, your centers of influence, and friends to recommend you powerfully. The choice is up to you. You can hold on to your assumptions, or you can start coaching referral sources so they become a loudmouth on your prospecting team.
So when you understand what happened to Bob and contrast that with what happened to Paul, you'll realize that there is a process and that it is so important to coach people in order to bring you referrals for profit. And right after this, we're going to share with you a sample lesson from our 8-week series called Referrals for Profit. So be sure to watch that video. I'll see you there.